VocalEye Almost Live Zoom, Dove Cottage, a night of William Wordsworth history and poetry, hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guest Eileen Barrett.
Welcome, 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 my friends, to this VocalEye Almost live event. My name is Amy Amantea. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Associate Director here at VocalEye. I'm your host for these almost live events, and I'm a member of the blind community and proud to be a member of this community where we have delightful friends and delightful moments, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else on a Wednesday evening. So thank you all. Big thank you to folks who join us Wednesday after Wednesday, folks who join on our YouTube channel, folks who've sent in testimonial letters and their hard-earned dollars, and let us know that our programming has made an impact. So we read all the letters. We share them with our donors. We want to know if this is worth your time to join on a Wednesday night. So if you happen to be joining us on our YouTube channel, there's a like and a subscribe button, and we hope you join us there. We also hope you check out our websites and visit us at a live theater production and join us online and all sorts of fun stuff. So you know how to get a hold of us. We're at vocaleye.ca. VocalEye is broadcasting to you from the traditional and unceded or stolen lands of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. So again, I like to try and cater my land acknowledgements to something that is relative to what we're going to be experiencing in our almost live event. So tonight we're doing an exploration of some William Wordsworth poetry. And I thought I would do a little bit of research into what might have been happening around colonialism, certainly in Canada, North America, around the time of William Wordsworth and when he would have been writing his poems. So we're looking at around 1750s to 1850s, let's call it that sort of time period. So here's just a little bit of what I learned, and knowing that this is just barely touching the surface, friends. So Britain, which was the home of Wordsworth, and where he lived during the height of the British Empire, Britain was expanding its colonial influence across North America, Australia, New Zealand, and India, and elsewhere, of course. Many of its wealth and its resources that supported the British Empire came from colonial expansion, often at the expense of Indigenous peoples, but we will come back to that in a moment. So during Wordsworth's lifetime, back here sort of at home, many First Nations people, so we're talking about mostly Canada, this is the context that I did research in, and West Coast-ish. So many First Nations continued to govern themselves according to their own laws and traditions. Nations maintained extensive trade networks and diplomatic relationships. Hunting, fishing, gathering, farming, storytelling, music, and ceremony remained central to community life, but European settlement expanded dramatically after the American Revolution. The fur trade was at its height, and many indigenous nations became important trading partners. But this was a colonial influence. So imagine that you are living during that time, and in indigenous communities, this was just a way of life for you. But all of a sudden, colonialism happens, and people from Britain or from anywhere else came in and saw this as a thing they could sell on the market. This was the commodity, and so came in and was like, oh, we would like to have you teach us how to hunt your caribou, buffalo, whatever animal. And once you were taught how to do this, you went and, cleaned out the land of these animals and sent them back to Britain, and they were sold at high value. And that started this sort of capitalistic circle. And I said, what is the influence on folks who were Indigenous from just this part of colonialism is that food sources started to run out. Traditions started to be scarcified, and disease started to be spread. Indigenous folks were tricked out of their land because colonialism saw value in the land as they were setting up and wanting to build. And so sometimes what seemed like a partnership between the Indigenous communities and colonialism was nothing more than a smokescreen or trickery or any of those kinds of things. As I just said the term smokescreen, I realized that maybe that is a colonial term that I should not be using as a settler person. So I'm going to have to look into that. So what's interesting to me about what we're going to experience this evening, knowing that this is just a dip in the pond of the depths of research that we could do, and we've shared a lot during our land acknowledgements about the impact of colonization on Indigenous populations here in Canada and in North America. William Wordsworth celebrated the beauty of the natural world. So he argued that people should have a close relationship with nature. And that is how Indigenous peoples had been living according to their principles for thousands of years. And during the time of William Wordsworth was the height of the British Empire, when colonialism was maybe arguably at its highest impact, or the beginning of its highest impact. And we just know that it continued from that point forward. So I will leave you to marinate on that as we listen to some of the words of William Wordsworth, and think about where his poetry has generated from. So that's what I have to offer on today, Wednesday, the 22nd of July, 2026. And tonight we're proud to offer you our Almost Live event number 224. Tonight it is entitled Dove Cottage, the sweetest place on earth. This is a night of William Wordsworth history and poetry. And of course, I could think of no one better than our very own Eileen Barrett, who is a VocalEye describer and friend and actor and so much more. Come on in, Eileen.
Hi,
How are you, my
Amy.
friend?
I'm very well. Also, tar meltingly hot, but yeah, grateful to be inside where there's some fans going.
I might at some point have to do the good old grab a freezy from the freezer kind of thing. Or
That sounds like an
refill my
excellent idea.
ice water glass. So if I
That
go
sounds
off
like
camera for a moment, it's just me getting up and going to get some water.
I think that's a
Um,
very good idea, Amy. Yeah.
you
And I'm going to wave the lovely pink fan that I got when we did the Nanaimo Pride Festival event. Thank you, VocalEye. There's
Yes, indeed.
nothing like a I think they're traditionally called weirdly Spanish fans. I don't know why, but I know when I was in Spain, they were everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, the ones that you open like a
The ones that you
yeah.
can
How do you?
open and you can use it for flirtation and hiding behind as well too.
And
But
yours is like pink and sequined or something, isn't it?
pink and sequined, yes. Not
Very
as
nice.
lovely as Christie's outfit the other night at Sister Act, but we do our best.
Both Christy and Laura were decked out in sequins,
They were
and it
beautiful,
was
absolutely beautiful, because
fantastic.
that was the theme of the evening. Yeah, for sure.
And I am curious because both Christy and Laura, I think, are coming to Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid.
And I know that Christy definitely has some Little
Yes.
Mermaid garb. What if the two of them are going to be in competition? again. And this is like not like sending the memo, like, you coming in and what are you coming in? It just like they both happen to like show up in style, like they were walking the red carpet,
That's
which I
wonderful.
thought was fantastic. So now I'm just eager to see what happens on Friday night
Yeah, yeah,
when we
yeah.
go. Because I'm wearing like sweatpants with
I
bug
always
spray, you know? Yeah.
with Theater Under the Stars, for those of us listening from other parts of the world, it's a wonderful outdoor event. Actually, it's it's a one-third size what the Hollywood Bowl is. It has the exact same configuration, but it is outside and in a park. And so with all the wonderfulness that that involves, it also involves a heck of a lot of mosquitoes. And I get eaten alive every year. So that is just one of the things that goes along with it. By middle of Act Two, they're usually just swarming around the little light that I have on top of the script for the audio description script. So it's just one of the things that we kind of go, okay, that's all part of the experience.
You
Just
know, you know what I learned though, and I did this for the first time last Friday. I saw other people spraying their clothes
yeah,
with the bug spray, and
for
I was
sure.
just spraying like my open skin.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I put bug spray on underneath my clothes. And now I'm going to spray bug spray on top of my clothing because I thought, what does it like? Why? Why? They're not going to bite through your clothes. I never even
Oh, they
considered
do.
that they would. Yeah.
Oh, they do.
Uh,
Yeah, it's yeah. So if you've got a layer of denim on, and then you
yeah.
just spray on the top of that, it works like a charm. And I also put a hoodie on, so by Act Two, I can just pull the hoodie up right around my face, put the mask
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Away
Yeah.
we go.
And then Eileen looks like an alien from the back in the hoodie.
Even more like an alien.
Oh, stop. Stop.
Oh, the
Yeah.
joys. But it's
Oh,
fun.
the joys. But they're usually not around when we eat our hot dogs because it's
Nope.
a little too early for them. So you get to be mosquito free when you eat a hot dog. And it's great. We have a partnership with Mr. Tube Steak, and they give us a hot dog and a bag of popcorn and a beverage, um, and it's really great. Yeah, and they love us. So I love them. It's great. It's easy.
Yay.
So I'm looking forward to Friday. So it's going to be a busy weekend with Theater Under the Stars on Friday and Macbeth on Sunday,
Right.
which you were also describing. You're describing Macbeth.
Describing Macbeth, yes,
Oh,
yeah. The lovely Kaz will be
Cass.
describing Little Mermaid, and
Right?
I will be describing the Bloody Scottish Show.
Bloody
And I
Scott.
can't wait. I can't wait.
Good. Me neither. I guess I should buy a ticket. I haven't bought a ticket yet. Seriously. Actually, when you're blind for Bard on the Beach, your ticket is free. So I just need to get a ticket. I don't need to buy a ticket. But I should do
Yeah.
that. So thank you for the reminder. So Eileen, what's
Amy.
what's the thing tonight? What are we doing? What did
So
I bully you into?
we're doing just a delightful and charming. This brought me right back to English literature in grade 12, studying the Romantic poets. So we are going to be doing a deep dive, well, hopefully deep dive into William Wordsworth, which must include his sister Dorothy Wordsworth and his friendship with Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Coleridge and Wordsworth really, um, okay, so the poet Cowper, who was Jane Austen's favorite poet, by the way, sort of began introducing the idea of romanticism. In other words, it's not like romantic comedy, but the idea of nature being um, is so terribly, terribly important, and not nature in a beautified kind of nice little roads and valleys, kind of like a blasted tree or a mossy covered rock, or that nature being elemental to the spirituality of human beings. So that was a Cooper or Cowper, and then Coleridge and especially Wordsworth then really took that, embraced it, and ran with it. So they really, really, really began the era of Romantic poetry. Soon followed on the heels then by the bad boys like Byron, Mad,
Mm-hmm.
Bad, and Dangerous to Know. But that was sort of, another generation after that, completely, set up by by these guys, and they were best friends. They lived close by each other. Their families were enmeshed, and really had a great love and respect for each other. So all this centered around, to begin with, this Amy's done all this fabulous research on this place called Dove
Mm.
Cottage, which was a little place that Wordsworth was able to buy so he could create a home for he and his sister Dorothy. They were very close. So let's get right to it with Dove Cottage. Shall we, Amy? Should we just dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. I think we have an image of Dove Cottage. So we'll bring that up. And then there's an image description of it that
Yeah.
took me forever to try and piece together, but somehow, here we go. So what does Dove Cottage look like, Eileen?
Nestled against a wooded hillside in the village of Grasmere, which is in Cumbria in the northwestern part of England, Dove Cottage is a modest, whitewashed stone home that became the residence of William Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy from 1799 to 1808. Here, surrounded by the beauty of England's Lake District, they were the Lake District poets, Wordsworth composed many of his most celebrated poems, while Dorothy captured daily life and the changing seasons in her remarkable journals, which are known as the Grasmere Journals, and they are quite remarkable. The cottage is simple rather than grand. Thick white stone walls glow softly in the sunlight beneath a weathered slate roof crowned by two tall chimneys. Small leaded glass windows with diamond-shaped panes hint at its 17th century origin, so 1600s, while a tiny porch shelters an unassuming front door that welcomes visitors into what was first and foremost a family home. Nature wraps itself around the building. Ivy climbs the walls, shrubs spill over a traditional dry stone wall, and a wooden gate opens onto a narrow path leading towards the cottage. Behind it, a steep hillside of mature trees creates a sense of shelter and quiet, making the house feel as though it has grown naturally from the landscape itself. Standing before Dove Cottage, it's easy to imagine Dorothy tending the garden or writing in her journal while William returns from a long walk across the fields, inspired by the beauty surrounding him. More than 2 centuries later, the cottage remains remarkably humble, a place where ordinary daily life quietly gave rise to some of the most enduring poetry in the English language. And they used to
You
take
were,
long walks together, Dorothy and William. They really, that was a lifelong habit that established for them as soon as they were able to come back together as young adults and reestablish their relationship, which was, I mean, as happened a lot in in families at that time, when one of the family members, like, well, the mom died, then they're all scattered to the winds, brothers,
Mhm.
sisters, what have you, and they didn't get to see each other for years and years. And when they finally came back together again, they were very close and developed this habit of walking, taking long walks together.
Yeah, and I had read that by long walks, up like
Mhm.
sometimes 20 kilometers a day.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
I
are
love when when you're
long
reading
walks.
in novels of that time, Jane Austen, you think of her characters as not being very athletic, but they bloody well were. They took hella long walks, and they would often describe, oh, I'm just about at the turning, which for them would have been maybe 10 kilometer, right? They're going to turn around and come back again.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah, yes, because I mean they didn't have cars, so if you wanted to go somewhere
yeah,
and you wanted to get
yeah,
out and experience things, you walked.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine how uncomfortable that was for the women of the day because they probably were wearing corsets
Boots,
and hoops and
boots, yeah. And
shoes that were not, that were designed to be more dainty than practical, let's say.
well, I think the boots were fairly practical, Amy, because
Yeah,
they had to last a long time.
yeah.
So the boots that you would put on for your long walk, and some they were in another thing that was an overshoe called a patten if they were going to be in
Hmm.
town where there was a lot of horse poo around. So you'd put that over your shoe. But if you were going out for one of these long walks, you bloody well better have your boots on.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a thing, right? So you get your skirts would be up to 6 inches deep in mud by the end of the walk and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's a famous scene in Pride and Prejudice where the horrible sister says, "Did you see her petticoats? I hope you saw her petticoats, 6 inches deep in mud." Because
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Bennet, the heroine of that story, is very much an outdoorsy, running around, walking kind of person, where the other one reclines on a couch.
Right, right.
Anyway, but the Wordsworths, they were out there. They were
They were
out
out
there
there.
enjoying nature and really, really like, refreshing their souls.
Yeah. I love it. So, trying something new with this format, Eileen, and I guess we'll discover whether the community is like, yeah, I like this format, or like, don't ever do that again. So trying to figure out, because like there are so many different types of art that we can do in a format like this, which is kind
Mhm.
of to divide things up into like little chunks of historical chapters kind of thing, and then intersperse some of Wordsworth's poetry within that. So we can do the
Nice.
same thing with like, paintings, or Edgar Allan Poe, or and you like have your pick, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here, to see if there is some merit. I think there kind of is, but this is a pilot project, to see if this kind of format works. So
Great.
let's dive in and see where we get to.
Okay. So Amy's got a lovely quote here. The extraordinary became extraordinary when Wordsworth stopped long enough to notice it. Words I think we can all live by, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On April 7th, 1770, a baby boy was born in the tiny market town of Cockermouth. Don't we love that? In England's Lake District. No one could have guessed this child would become one of the greatest poets in the English language. His classroom would not be grand libraries or royal courts, but rivers, mountains, birds, forests, and wandering footpaths. The first poem noted here is My Heart Leaps Up. This short poem immediately introduces one of Wordsworth's greatest themes, that wonder should never leave us. And I believe we've got a link.
Yeah, let's have a listen to that one.
Okay.
My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began. So is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father to the man. And I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety.
It's another very famous line. The child is father to the man. Did you study this one? I don't remember studying this one. One of his most, I mean, you could say that about all of his poems, honestly. One of his most famous, or maybe not all of them, but like, it
Well, I
feels like
think we're
I'm
gonna
always saying that.
definitely get to one of his most famous ones, which I'm sure most people will go, "Oh, yeah, right, right."
Yeah.
I gotta get that one. But uh I think that this one is done certainly in British what they call GCSEs, which is the
Hmm.
exams that you take, before you go on to your higher levels. But uh, uh, yeah, so historically, they've actually say because Dorothy noted down the actual day that he wrote it, March 26th, 1802. He was staying at Dove Cottage. After he wrote it, he thought about altering it, but he decided to leave it. It was originally written, urged by her to just leave it alone.
Hmm.
It was first published in Poems in 2 volumes in 1807. And the day after he wrote it, he began to write his more ambitious ode. So a lot of times these sort of, how when you think of a visual artist as they do a sketch, maybe outside a sketch or something, and the pen and ink drawings or whatever, and then it acts as the inspiration for a grander work, shall we say. But so this led to an ode, Intimations of Immortality.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I would argue I like the short poem
Yeah, yeah,
better. Because it's just like one little explosion of joy.
yeah, yeah. I actually find that with a lot of his works, that I like the excerpts better than I do listening to, 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever of the longest versions of things.
But we can get our heads around like a rainbow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I can understand that feeling of yeah, something that just inspires that kind of feeling in a person. It's easier
Yeah,
to get your head around than a
yeah,
lot of words explaining in depth that
yeah.
perhaps the same kind of feeling.
Fair enough. Start off gentle.
And I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. And I think that is a lovely image of meaning not a piety that is perhaps imposed on one by the teachings of religion, but rather just by what you're experiencing around you, being out in nature, and that in itself forms kind of a cathedral.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
that's
that was
what I interpret it, but yeah,
and that was read by Benedict Cumberbatch, I
whose
believe.
voice sounds like velvet.
Yeah,
As far as I'm concerned, we like Mr. Cumberbatch very much.
very much. All
So,
right.
dear old William's childhood wasn't idyllic for long. His mother died when he was only 8 years old, and then his father died 5 years later when he was 13. So he and his sister Dorothy were separated, and they were sent to live with different relatives. And Dorothy was pretty much put to work as a domestic servant. You could say, I mean, you were expected to do that when you were a girl and you were living with relatives and you didn't have much status because your mom had died. For years, William and his beloved sister Dorothy barely saw one another. Many historians believe these early losses explain why his poetry continually returns to childhood memories as places of comfort and healing. Apparently, that happens with a lot of children's authors as well, too. They keep rewriting the part where they actually felt P.L. Travers, who wrote Mary Poppins, she just kept going back to, because she was a pretty humorless woman in her life, but she just kept going back to that point in her life when she actually felt happy.
Yeah.
He later wrote, "The child is the father of the man." That single sentence became one of the most famous lines in English literature.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thoughts, Amy?
It's interesting to me that you started off by saying that you remember this from grade 12, like literature, English class, and I don't remember any of this stuff. It's like I skipped the whole the whole semester. I don't know. So this when I was doing some research, and a lot of this feels very new to me, even though
Mm.
it's really not. So I've had to dig deep into the recesses of my mind because I literally have like purged it.
Well,
Uh,
perhaps also because I'm a good deal older than you as well, too, and perhaps we were being quote unquote less colonial when you were going to school than when I was.
mm, I don't. I would say not. I mean, there was no in my going to school, there was no focus on any thoughts around in like indigenous rights, or like the most we ever studied about indigenous peoples was the Haida.
Hmm.
And it was like, these are extinct peoples, and
Mm.
they don't
No,
exist
they're
anymore,
not.
but this is
Yeah.
their, yeah, this is their artwork. And so I don't think that my goings to school even
Hmm.
came close to understanding anything about colonialism. um so yeah, so I think maybe either, whoever was teaching at the time picked different
Hmm.
things to study on, and I took AP Lit.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
They just weren't a fan of old Wordsworth then, and
Maybe,
that's fair.
maybe.
And that's fair. Okay. Well, let's go on to
Fun.
the ode, Intimations of Immortality. There's some alliteration for you.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight to me did seem apparelled in celestial light. The glory and the freshness of a dream. It is not now as it hath been of yore. Turn wheresoe'er I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more.
I especially love the dynamic read of that. I just found it on YouTube. There was no reference to that I could find to like where it was from, but I just thought it was really a really beautiful read.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about that piece, Eileen?
I've never found when they put music behind a poem because I was just like, oh, come on, let us just experience it, because I agree with you. I think that the reader was doing a lovely job with it, and it just to me it's just like, oh, come on, don't. Sometimes I find when they put music behind poetry, it's like trying to tell us what we should be thinking or feeling, and I think that the words themselves can stand up on their own, if that makes sense.
It does, but I find that with some types of poetry, I like that the music helps me to get into that space because sometimes it's not as obvious to me what the words necessarily mean because I'm just not I'm not I don't have that same analytical brain, and it takes me a longer time to sit down and think about it, if it's not as clear to me in terms of like the language and how it's put together in the phrasing, and sometimes in some of the rhyming schemes, some of them are done in a way where they're not the typical pattern for the ear.
Okay,
And
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, and so like in Shakespeare sometimes, right? It's like the sentence stops and then starts up again, but it's the same thought. And then my brain goes, oh, shoot. Yeah.
Which gives you an idea of like, because people do in our thoughts, we twist and change and, our thought can go this far and then suddenly goes in another direction. And so the irregularities. Now, interestingly, this is part of what's called a conversation poem. So they incorporate conversational language while also examining higher ideas of nature and morality. So that I think you're really onto something there. That's very much the sort of the it's not of a da-dum da-da 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 da-dum da-da 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 da-da. They very much do. We've got conversational elements and then, sort of maybe a loftier theme, and then we go back into the, but I think this, or it makes me think of this, or that kind of thing. And Coleridge particularly, but Wordsworth, of course, as well too, were very, very interested in that kind of using those two kind of different styles smushed together to make perhaps something that seems, well, more conversational, less elegiac, or less sort of
less
elevated.
status. I was reading that too because I think one of the things that both of them tried to do was to bring poetry to the everyday people. That was one of the things that they wanted to do, was to reduce the status level of who you needed to be in order to access poetry.
It's for everybody. It's not just for people in velvet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of them, I think, started out as with sort of revolutionary zeal, and interesting the way that their lives go. Okay, so now we're on to chapter 2. Oh, Amy, I love all this work that you've done. It's amazing. Amy's done incredible notes here. Chapter 2, Cambridge and Restlessness. So Wordsworth attended Cambridge University. He got his BA after 4 years. Ironically, he wasn't considered an exceptional student because he preferred walking, long walks, very long walks, sometimes over 20 miles a day. Friends joked that he was always happier outdoors than indoors. These walks became his education. He once said that nature was his greatest teacher. Um, yeah, I think if more of us had that idea, then the world might be in a better place. Okay, so let's hear the tables turned, which is number 3.
Up, up, my friend, and quit your books, or surely you'll grow double. Up, my friend, and clear your looks. Why all this toil and trouble? The sun above the mountain's head, a freshening lustre mellow, through all the long green fields has spread his first sweet evening yellow. Books, 'tis a dull and endless strife. Come, hear the woodland linnet, how sweet his music! On my life, there's more of wisdom in it. And hark, how blithe the throstle sings. He, too, is no mean preacher. Come forth into the light of things. Let nature be your teacher. She has a world of ready wealth, our minds and hearts to bless. Spontaneous wisdom breathed by health, truth breathed by cheerfulness. One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of man, of moral evil, and of good than all the sages can. Sweet is the lore which nature brings. Our meddling intellect misshapes the beauteous forms of things we murder to dissect. Enough of science and of art. Close those barren leaves. Come forth and bring with you a heart that watches and receives.
We murder to dissect.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a beautiful voice too. I love her. So a throstle, I was happy to be reminded of hearing that here, because it's also mentioned in A Midsummer Night's Dream. So a throstle is a song thrush, and a linnet bird is a green finch, and linnet bird is another songbird as well too. And just especially this time of year, hearing them out I'm fortunate enough to live on a ravine, so I get to hear a lot of songbirds, and just hearing them. She's absolutely right. It just makes you, or he's absolutely right. It makes you just want to go out into the woods and just listen to them.
Yeah. There's a Toil and Trouble reference, the Shakespeare line, Toil and Trouble. And now I'm thinking, was that like a regular phrase that was used, like Shakespeare pulled from typical speach pattern,
No,
during his time?
I think
or
it's
did
more like
Wordsworth, borrow from Shakespeare?
I think so. I think Wordsworth borrowed from lots of places, and I think quite not in a plagiarizing just sort of way, just grabbed tools, and and once again, these it's nice that the final little stanza has once again, like we were talking about with rhythms, it's fairly regular all the way along, and then ba-bump at the end. Just the summation at the end is just like a more irregular kind of a rhythm. In other words, like, okay, now get up, go.
I love, so again, in the way that this person is reading this poem, it feels very obvious to me that this is really like, this is the let nature be your teacher.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you don't need to study, science and art, and like just look at what's right in front of you, and be with what's there, because nature has a powerful lesson to teach you if you would just stop and listen and pay attention.
Mhm.
That these things matter, and maybe what doesn't matter is the standing around in circles and the ha 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 ha, ha that artwork is fantastic, ha 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 ha, like the hobnobbing and the aristocratic
Yeah.
scene, and that those things don't matter in the grand scheme of life. And you're stopping you're missing some of the most beautiful things. So yeah, when I hear that, go on now, it's like, go let nature be your guide. Go. Don't
Mhm.
miss another moment of it.
And I think it's just, yeah, it's probably a good reminder that when you get brain weary of all the talk,
Mhm.
talk, 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 then yeah, then that's the time to go. That there's a place for everything perhaps, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, when nothing's making sense anymore, just go out and listen to the birds and for good, bad, and indifferent. Not that everything is all, like a Disney movie out there, because I like also too what he says about the lessons of
Yeah.
the world are out there, and can't help thinking of, yes, coyotes and all that kind of stuff. They all have
Yep.
everything has their place. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Lovely.
Okay, moving from that. Oh, and in 1795 was when Wordsworth met Coleridge. So this poem was written just shortly after that, is 1798. But yes, so he met his lifelong friend Coleridge. Actually, also met him through his sister Dorothy, who knew Coleridge
Oh.
before Wordsworth did. Um, okay. In the interim, he'd gone off to France. Oh, we're just getting there now. Okay, in 1791, he went to France. So it was considered revolutionary France, although the really the massive executions hadn't started to happen yet. So he met a woman named Annette Vallon and had his first child with her. Her name was Caroline. Um, so he was there in 1791 through 1792, but he had to come home a couple of years after that because his family pulled the money that they've been giving him and his grant money and said, "No, you have to come home. It's too crazy there." And now we're Britain's back, because Britain was always at war with France, on again, off again, on again, off again. It got quite funny, like the thing, especially at the alcoholic drink would be like, "Oh, are we allowed to have champagne?" "No, we're not, because we're at war with France." "Okay, well, we'll have to have we'll have to have Madeira, because we're not at war with, Portugal or Spain right now." So it's just, even what you could eat or
Mm.
drink was determined by who you were at war with. So, okay, so off he goes, the French Revolution. At age 20, Europe was exploding with ideas, liberty, equality, and freedom. Wordsworth traveled to France 1791, at the beginning of the French Revolution. It was just called Revolutionary France at that time. They hadn't started the bad stuff. At first, he believed history itself was changing. He fell in love with a French woman, Annette Vallon. Together, they had a daughter, Caroline. But then Britain declared war on France, and he suddenly couldn't return. He was separated from both Annette. He couldn't return to France. He was separated both from Annette and from his daughter for years. Although they did correspond, they corresponded back and forth, um, when they could sneak letters in and out, a couple of which still survive. Her letters do. They only discovered them recently. His letters all got destroyed, but her letters, which actually got
Oh.
stopped, a couple of them got stopped at the border, and
Mm.
they actually were uncovered fairly recently. His dream
Wow.
of a revolution slowly turned into heartbreak as violence overtook France. Later, he wrote, "Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive." Those words describe the excitement people felt before the revolution descended into bloodshed, which it certainly did.
And that was the time just around the story of Les Miserables.
No, that's later.
1820, around 1820.
That's Les Mis, yeah, but this is the 1790s because it's
Yeah.
right or just after the American Revolution. So
Yeah, but we're
so
not
Les Mis,
far.
yeah, the barricades and everything came. Yeah, yeah, but all the beheadings and all that sort of stuff, they did that
Right.
before. And then,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Fun fact, the guillotine was designed as supposedly a more humane way.
It
It
yeah.
was designed by a doctor. It was designed as a more humane way, who was, of course, appalled as to what use it was put um, during the terror, as it was called.
And it hardly ever worked.
I did not know that,
There,
Amy.
there were many, I believe, instances of it not, not being used properly, or not having a clean cut, or
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
It's hard work to chop off somebody's head. There are all
Yeah.
kinds of terrible stories about it not working, and just, oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear. This is
Talk
not
about,
really.
talk about the axe not working, but
Yeah. Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
So I'm leaving that aside. Let's get on to link number 4, an excerpt from the Prelude.
O pleasant exercise of hope and joy! For mighty were the auxiliars which then stood upon our side, we who were strong in love. Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heaven. O times in which the meager, stale, forbidding ways of custom, law, and statute took at once the attraction of a country and romance! When reason seemed the most to assert her rights, when most intent on making of herself a prime enchantress, to assist the work which then was going forward in her name. Not favored spots alone, but the whole earth, the beauty war of promise, that which sets, as at some moment might not be unfelt among the bowers of paradise itself, the budding rose above the rose full blown. What temper at the prospect did not wake to happiness unthought of? The inert were roused, and lively natures rapt away. They who had fed their childhood upon dreams, the playfellows of fancy, who had made all powers of swiftness, subtlety, and strength their ministers, who in lordly wise had stirred among the grandest objects of the sense, and dealt with whatsoever they found there, as if they had within some lurking right to wield it. They too, who of gentle mood had watched all gentle motions, and to these had fitted their own thoughts, schemers more wild, and in the region of their peaceful selves. Now was it that both found, the meek and lofty did both find, helpers to their heart's desire, and stuff at hand, plastic as they could wish, were called upon to exercise their skill, not in utopia, subterranean fields, or some secreted island, heaven knows where, but in the very world, which is the world of all of us, the place where, in the end, we find our happiness, or not at all.
So he worked on this poem for his whole life, because this is just the beginning part. He never gave it a title. It was published 3 months after his death in 1850. He just called it the poem to Coleridge when he was referring to it, or talking to Dorothy, his sister. It was not known to the general public until after it was published. And
are you talking about the Prelude in general, or this excerpt from the Prelude?
The Prelude in general. So this section, so just to give you an idea of the timeline, so he started it 1798, age of 28, and it took him until
It's 40 years.
Yeah. In 1805, there was a version bound and printed that was 13 books long, and then the final was 14 books long. And Yeah, he worked on it his whole life, polishing the style and qualifying some of the statements about the divine sufficiency of the human mind in its communion with nature. The
Yeah,
divine sufficiency of the human mind.
I believe Ian McClellan reads the whole thing, and you can buy it like on Audible or something.
All 14 books of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Their whole, well, okay, because they planned to write this book together, he and Coleridge, and then Coleridge got ill. They wanted to surpass John Milton's Paradise Lost. So they actually had that goal. And if it had been completed, it would have been about 3 times as long as Paradise Lost. Because they were aiming for 33,000 lines. Paradise Lost is 10,500.
Wow.
Yeah. It apparently just plagued him that he didn't finish it. I don't think anybody else, nobody knew about it. I don't think they tortured themselves. There's a lot of, shall we say, a lot of troubled minds in the Romantic and the Lake poets, particularly. Yeah, a lot of, I think these days probably would be, diagnosed a lot of bipolar, a lot of depression, that kind of thing. So people who felt things very, very, very intensely and beat themselves up a lot about not coming up to their own standards, perhaps. So, although it all sounds like, oh yes, they wrote nice little poems about going out into nature, really wasn't that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, they tied into larger themes and larger pieces.
Yeah. And I think just a real craving and a wanting to find solace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ability to see the beauty, but also the craving for that comfort. Yeah. Yeah. Do we know who is the narrator on that one? I didn't notice, but that's
no, not necessarily.
Younger voice. Cool. Okay, so on to chapter 4. Oh, it must be pointed out as well too. Okay, so these were by no means completely impoverished people. They were of a class that was, would have been considered middle class, which did enable them to be able to write poetry. But in 1795, a person named Raisley Calvert, who was an artist, became a benefactor of Wordsworth and gave him £900, which was a considerable chunk then, which enabled him to do the work and to put the down payment on Dove Cottage. So that was nice to have another artist who believed in him. Okay, so chapter 4, Dorothy. No, perhaps no one influenced Wordsworth more than his sister Dorothy. I would say, yeah, he owes Dorothy a lot. They eventually reunited. They lived together, they walked together, they observed nature together. Dorothy kept remarkable journals. Many scenes that became William's most famous poems first appeared in Dorothy's diary. Absolutely. Some scholars affectionately called her the invisible co-author. And one afternoon, Dorothy noticed a field filled with thousands of dancing daffodils. William later transformed that shared memory into one of the world's most famous poems. So let's hear I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, otherwise known as Daffodils. That's link 5, Rick.
I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For, oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills. and dances with the daffodils.
And that, of course, is the fabulous Dame Helen Mirren reading that beautiful poem. Of course, by this time, our friend William has married his childhood friend. They went to school together, Mary Hutchinson. It was only when Wordsworth was actually, had this benefactor and was able to make enough money. He was able to then go back to Mary Hutchinson, his childhood friend, and say, "Okay, shall we get married?" And they did. Now, interestingly, the relationship between William and Dorothy, his sister, was so close that Dorothy traveled with William to the point of them getting married. She did not attend the wedding itself, but she did go on honeymoon with them. And then they all lived together in Dove Cottage, as well as Mary's sister Sarah. So there was the four of them. They all apparently lived together there quite happily until the children started arriving and it just got too small a place, and then all of them eventually moved out. But yeah, no, Dorothy, apparently this wasn't unusual to have folks go along with you on your honeymoon. I think it's today we'd go, that's a bit weird. But I guess it was not that unusual then. So on this walk that led up to this poem being written, all of them were so the three of them at least were there. So Dorothy and Mary were there. And then they got home and he consulted with Dorothy about the diary entries that she made are absolutely beautiful about, what they saw this day with the daffodils. And then Mary is the one, his wife, is the one who came up with the famous, "They flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude." So arguably the two most famous lines in the poem were written, at that and the theme were written by other people. It was a real collaborative thing, but of course they were merely women. So, well, I shouldn't say that, because there were some women poets, but definitely their role was to be a support to William. So yeah, but it's quite something, because this one particularly definitely was a team effort.
It reminds me of that good old gendered phrase, the behind every great man stands a great woman.
Yeah.
Greater woman.
Yeah.
That's a good old gendered phrase that doesn't necessarily apply the same way anymore, but it reminds me of this time period.
Yeah. This idea of the inward eye and that apparently was something that really was a thing that was being explored even in medical circles. The idea of uh, was it actually a really, a real phenomenon to have something flash upon the insides of your eyeballs? But I would argue, well, no, it's imagination. But anyway, whatever. It just seems a much stronger image that what enables you to do is have this experience, take it home with you, and then in moments of solitude, even in a quiet moment, you can be there again in a second. Yeah.
Interesting.
The original version of it that he managed to knock out in a day is only 3 stanzas long, but then he threw in another couple of stanzas and changed the wording a little bit. So it's really interesting the way that, you think, okay, there's a poem, and then you go back and look at it, and no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do. So
the process. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a honing and a honing and a
honing. Well, that's why the Prelude never got finished. I mean, come on.
Because he just kept mucking with it.
Yeah.
William, just right. Okay, there are a couple of cute things about this poem. There have been so many parodies done of it. Okay, so Genesis. If anybody's familiar with the band Genesis, I used to be a huge fan of Genesis, and I hadn't even thought about this. That opening lyrics to the song "Colony of the Slipper Man" from "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway," the line is coupled with "Till I came upon this dirty street." So they, anyway. And then I did not know about this one. It was the subject of a 1985 Heineken beer advertisement, which depicts a poet having difficulties with his opening lines. He's only able to come up with, I walked about a bit on my own, or I strolled around without anyone else, until he downs a Heineken and reaches the immortal, I wandered lonely as a cloud. Because, quotation, I guess this was their slogan, Heineken refreshes the poets other beers can't reach.
Huh.
I guess their slogan was refreshes the parts other beers can't reach, but they switched it up for this one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder who thought up that ad campaign. I bet it was funny though. And then there's also an assertion that Wordsworth originally hit on, I wandered lonely as a cow, until Dorothy told him, William, you can't put that. Anyway, a sort of lovely and bittersweet side note, and we'll get to there. He did end up planting a whole bunch of daffodils in a garden, a Cumbrian garden called Dora's Field, and we will get there as to why that's significant in a little bit. Okay. So Dove Cottage, they moved there 1799. William and Dorothy moved in it. Today we know it as Dove Cottage. It had no luxury, small rooms. It was originally apparently a coaching inn. Like it was originally built as a pub called the Dove and Olive Branch.
Mm-hmm.
The first time that was, yeah. Had low ceilings, simple furniture. Wordsworth, Dorothy, Coleridge, and the other Romantic writers completely changed English literature. Many historians call Dove Cottage the birthplace of English Romanticism. They lived right by the lakes, so there you go. The poets believed ordinary people deserved poetry. Nature deserved poetry. Nature deserved to have poetry made about it. And not just pretty nature, like blasted trees and hunks of rock and things like that. Nature as was nature, not nature that had been prettied up by, because this was, of course, the era too of enclosing property that the landed gentry just absolutely loved to do. So they would enclose their property that normally had been grazed upon by the peasantry and like, no, it's now private land. And then they would have these, rolled lawns, which just showed you how much money the person had because they were of no use other than for, playing lawn bowling and croquet on. And it would do these gardens that were like nothing that would have naturally been found in nature. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. So everyday life deserved poetry, and these thoughts were revolutionary.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess a big contrast to that would be poor dear old Marie Antoinette. She made a little place that was like a little mini farmyard. It was all completely imaginary because she loved going and pretending to be a milkmaid. So she even had little butter churn and little panniers to hang milk buckets from, and she'd get dressed up as a milkmaid. So it had absolutely nothing to do what was natural or actually there. So I mean, I don't think she deserved to have her head cut off, but anyway. That's just all in contrast to, it was a revolutionary idea that maybe going out and appreciating the nature that was there might be a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So next we're on to lines written in early spring, which beautifully reflect Dove Cottage life. And that is link 6, Rick.
I heard 1,000 blended notes while in a grove I sate reclined, in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man?
Could have written that yesterday, couldn't he?
Huh. Yeah. Do you know what I have keenly noticed over the last couple of poems we've listened to is that there is a quality that he puts. I don't know that necessarily that this is considered an what's that word?
Anthropomorphic, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking of it as an ization, anthropomorphic whatever it is.
Anthropomorphism.
It's a word I struggle with. I hear it in my brain and my lips just don't want to make it. Around, like for this one, it was nature. So he uses the word she to refer to nature. And earlier in a poem, it was reason. And he used the word she as reason. And so I like that. I like that they become a character. And a character that by using these gendered pronouns is a way in which at that time period he's humanizing these. I feel like that's what he's doing, is trying to humanize nature and reason and those kinds of things that are, I don't know, maybe feel like they're a little bit further away than the everyday experience.
Or and or maybe the lament that the only way to get some folks to recognize the importance of the natural world is to relate it as to one human being, a woman, and then say what man has done to man, what man has made him out. But I really, in rereading this poem today, I thought, oh my God, this is just, because often I despair about what have we done? And the fact that we are a species who is so reliant upon each other, and yet we can't seem to see that.
Yeah, certainly as the theme of this particular poem, I was just talking about the device of using as relating sort of these topics to more humanize. Like that's found throughout his work in general. Yeah, no.
Why do you think that is, Amy? Do you think that he wants to? That's just the way.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that's. I feel like that's a way of being able to find a way of resonating with the everyday person. Even this idea of what has man done to man can resonate with anybody. It's a theme that is unmistakable as to what the meaning of it is. And even if the wider meaning of that is unknown to you, it could be, what did father do to son, or what did brother do to brother? Not necessarily what did nation do to nation or country do to country, or any of a broader theme, but it could be a theme that hits really close to home.
And in hitting close to home, we can see it hopefully in a wider context as well, too.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're a king on a throne, maybe you can see it from that perspective. And if you're a peasant working on a farm, you can see it in your life. That's my humble analysis without having an analytical bone in my body.
No, but I think it's great the way that these it's making us think, and it's making us have a conversation, and it was written 200 years ago. So I think that's pretty the fact that it translates so clearly I think is where it's powerful. So here we are, chapter 6. William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge formed one of the most important creative partnerships in English literature. Their friendship changed the course of poetry in the Western world and helped launch the Romantic movement. Here are some highlights of what they did together. They reinvented English poetry. In the late 1790s, they believed poetry had become too formal and artificial. Together, they argued that poetry should use language closer to everyday speech, focus on ordinary people rather than kings and heroes, find beauty and meaning in nature and daily life, explore emotion, imagination, personal experience. And these ideas became the foundation of Romanticism. Not as in romantic love, just as in, hearkening. Yeah, and they had a great love for ancient times as well, too. They published lyrical ballads in 1798. These consisted of considered one of the most influential books in English literature. The original volume including works by both poets. Always safer to publish together, with your friend, because publishing was really expensive. So really good if you could pay the advance together. Coleridge contributed The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, a supernatural tale of guilt, redemption, and wonder. That's where we get the expression of an albatross around your neck, because the ancient mariner is forced to wear a dead albatross that they shot throughout that poem. So it's a very, very strong symbol. Wordsworth contributed many poems, including lines written a few miles above Tintern Abbey, which is now just called Tintern Abbey, although Tintern Abbey itself is never mentioned in the poem. The beautiful We Are Seven, which I believe we're going to hear. Expostulation and reply. That's good. That's a fancier way of saying call and response. And The Tables Turned, which we heard already. Together, these poems demonstrated two complementary approaches to romantic poetry. They also had a shared artistic vision. Coleridge later explained that they divided their work almost like creative partners. Coleridge's role was to write about the extraordinary, the supernatural, or the mysterious in a way that felt believable. And Wordsworth's role was to reveal the extraordinary within ordinary life and nature. And they spent long days walking. Much of their collaboration happened while walking through the English countryside. And as somebody who walks every day, that is definitely where you do your best thinking, I think. Their partnership is often summarized by Coleridge himself. Quote, "It was agreed that my endeavors should be directed to persons and characters supernatural, while Mr. Wordsworth was to propose to himself as his object to give the charm of novelty to things of every day." Unquote. That description comes from Coleridge's Biographia Literaria, 1817, and it is one of the best explanations of how they work together. And now we're going to hear the beautiful We Are Seven. Note.
That's just
yeah. Wordsworth found extraordinary meaning in ordinary lives. I think this poem stands on its own. It's just beautiful. So that is link
one of my favorites.
7. Yeah.
A simple child, dear brother Jim, that lightly draws its breath and feels its life in every limb, what should it know of death? I met a little cottage girl. She was 8 years old, she said. Her hair was thick with many a curl and clustered round her head. She had a rustic woodland air, and she was wildly clad. Her eyes were fair and very fair. Her beauty made me glad. "Sisters and brothers, little maid, how many may you be?" "How many? 7 in all," she said, and wondering looked at me. "And where are they, I pray you tell?" She answered, "7 are we, and 2 of us in Conway dwell, and 2 are gone to sea. 2 of us in the churchyard lie, my sister and my brother, and in the churchyard cottage I dwell near them with my mother. You say that 2 at Conway dwell, and 2 are gone to sea, yet you are 7. I pray you tell, sweet maid, how can this be?" Then did the little maid reply, "7 boys and girls are we, 2 of us in the churchyard lie, beneath the churchyard tree. You run about, my little maid, and your limbs they are alive. If 2 are in the churchyard laid, then ye are only 5. "Their graves are green, they may be seen," the little maid replied. 12 steps or more from my mother's door, and they are side by side. My stockings there I often knit, my kerchief there I hem, And there upon the ground I sit and sing to them. And often after sunset, sir, when it is light and fair, I take my little porringer and eat my supper there. The first that died was little Jane. In bed she moaning lay, till God released her of her pain, and then she went away. So in the churchyard she was laid, and all the summer dry, together round her grave we played, my brother John and I. And when the ground was white with snow, and I could run and slide, my brother John was forced to go, and he lies by her side. How many are you then, said I, if they are 2 in heaven? The little maiden did reply, O master, we are 7. But they are dead, those 2 are dead, their spirits are in heaven. 'Twas throwing words away, for still the little maid would have her will, and said, Nay, we are 7.
Oh, I love that.
Me too.
Why do you love it, Amy?
I love the I love the sentiment of an 8-year-old child who tells an adult that just because 2 of her siblings are dead does not mean that they're gone and forgotten, that they are always going to be 7. And if another one dies, they will still always be 7. And I love this idea because, it's a funny thing, because when I was a kid, I actually used to visit cemeteries, even of people I didn't know. I would walk through them and like talk to people. And I find comfort in cemeteries. And so for me, it doesn't feel scary or icky or any of those things to sit at the foot of a grave and like knit a scarf or eat my dinner, or like those kinds of things feel like, yes, of course, why wouldn't you? And it warms my heart that somebody at 8, even, I mean, considering the time period, but I just think that it's a humble, beautiful thing that is lost in today's world of digital whateverness, or perhaps visiting somebody on your mantelpiece. It's a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and at that time they would have been so much more, shall we say, comfortable with death, because it would have been all around them, and they would have had a lot more, and children have a lot of experience of it. And they didn't sort of shove people away as soon as they died, the way that we tend to do now. It becomes a really sort of automated kind of thing. Takes the humanity away from it. Yeah. And the fact that he can't understand, like, or, that he's getting frustrated and trying to say, no, it's this, it's simple math. And she's saying no, because he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
But she has the last word.
Yep.
And once again it goes along, and da-da, we go in this nice rhythm, and then at just the very end it changes as she has her last say and just sums it up. So there's no more words to be said after that.
Yeah.
Because she gets she may have a little bit of pity for him because he just doesn't get it. And the images they're just beautiful. The images of them running about, and um mhm mhm
Yeah, you can really visualize some of that imagery.
Yep. Yeah. And the fact that she and her mom actually live close by as well too.
Yeah, just feet away. I don't know, it breaks my heart in such a way, but the way that it's written doesn't feel sad.
Nope.
It doesn't feel sad in the way that she's telling it. It's like she's telling it like a happy memory. I still play with my siblings every day, kind of thing. Like they're just as present as ever. But the fact that her and her brother John would play with the sibling that was buried, and then the next winter, after the winter, John was the next sibling to be buried, and it's like Oh, interesting. Okay.
And she gives
so
the
every
same,
day.
she gives the same who's where. She's giving the inventory of who's where. There's two that are, off in Wales, two of them are at sea, and then two are right there. They're buried in the ground. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's me. And then, yeah. I take my little porringer, your little pot that you would have yeah. Because the kind of supper you'd be having at that point would be sort of, I think it was, there's a lot of kind of, what was it called? The stuff that they ate a lot of was just essentially like, bread in broth and maybe a little bit of vegetables. And if you were really lucky, you'd get some meat, but not a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some people could argue, oh, well, no, she doesn't understand about the difference between death and life, but actually she seems to be much the wiser one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I think
Okay.
it's lovely. It's beautiful. So William married Mary Hutchinson. Together they had 5 children. So he's already got the one child, Caroline, in France, who he did actually get to go see her when she was 9 years old. Of course, Dorothy came too. And because his wife Mary actually thought, oh, you've got to do right by your first daughter. Her own mother, Annette, seemed to be doing okay. But so they went off and they visited her, and he wrote a beautiful poem while he was with her, there as they were walking around at the seaside in Calais. And but that was the only time he saw her until she was an adult, because it just wasn't as easy to get back and forth between Britain and France then, although he did actually, he started to give her an annuity of £30 a year when she got married, and then settled £400 on her later on in his will. So it could be argued he somewhat did right by her, because the reason that they went to France to go see her was to let her know that he was going to get married to Mary. And Mary was adamant, like, you gotta put this right. Because she was quite fond of, children. So yeah. Okay, so together, he and Mary had 5 children. So they had 3 children in the space of 4 years. And I think at that time it was decided, okay, this place, Dove Cottage, is not big enough for us. We have to move. So they all moved, including Mary and her sisters, Sarah and Dorothy and William and the children. Well, apparently, her sister Sarah and Dorothy took phenomenal care of as well, because they just adored them. They adored the children. But then 2 of the children, wee Catherine and wee Thomas, who were all of about 3 and 4 years old, they died within months of each other. Catherine first, and then Thomas later. So 2 of the youngest children died. Eldest daughter Dora, she lived into adulthood. So the wee ones died. The grief changed him forever. His later poetry became quieter and more reflective, less optimistic than before. And this next poem that we're going to hear, Surprised by Joy, he wrote for his wee daughter Catherine, who died just before her 4th birthday. So we're going to hear that one. Oh no, sorry, he wrote it just after she died.
Surprised by joy, impatient as the wind, I turn to share the transport. Oh, with whom but thee, long buried in the silent tomb, that spot which no vicissitude can find. Love, faithful love, recalled thee to my mind. But how could I forget thee? Through what power? Even for the least division of an hour? Have I been so beguiled as to be blind to my most grievous loss, that thoughts return was the worst pang that sorrow ever bore. Save one only, when I stood forlorn, knowing my heart's best treasure was no more, that neither present time nor years unborn could to my sight that heavenly face restore.
Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, he wrote that after she died, and that moment of turning to say something to somebody who has died. I think any of us who've experienced the death of somebody you love, it's one of the most heartbreaking things, right? When you just go and you turn to say, "Oh, by the way," or pick up the phone to call them, and takes you a moment to realize, oh, they're not there anymore. Yeah. So this was a very, very, very beloved little girl, Catherine. Um, she was born when Wordsworth and his wife were 38 years old. And there is a school of thought now that thinks that Catherine probably had Down syndrome. She was described as had a wonderful sense of humor and something irresistibly comic in her face and movements. Um, she also had heart problems, and she died of convulsions. The whole Wordsworth circle was very fond of her, and Thomas de Quincey, who ended up moving into Dove Cottage and who was another writer, he wrote Confessions of an English Opium Eater. He loved her dearly, especially so much so that when she died, he was heartbroken and claims to have slept out on her grave in Grasmere churchyard for 6 summer weeks in grief. And it is thought that it was probably depression following Catherine's death that tipped dear Thomas de Quincey into full-blown opium addiction. So yeah, the death of a child. It's very, 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 a very, very well-loved child. Yeah. So yeah, surprised by joy, which is another, I think, quotable quote that has gotten used by other authors, either as book titles or embedded into their own writing. Interestingly, it's one that sort of draws you up short, right? When you, oh, right, yes, it's about that. What do you think, Amy?
I think I don't really know what I think. I mean, obviously, I think it's tragic. I think that it's an interesting thing for scholars to say stuff like, that's the cause of his opium addiction, because like one would never know. That's, those are all best guesses, maybe, and maybe there's some evidence, but I don't know what that is. But so maybe there's a bunch of evidence out there that you can trickle pieces together in writings and whatnot. But sometimes I wish, like somebody would write down, I'm so sad at the loss of Catherine that I, that I can't afford any more opium, like whatever. But it's never as clearly spelled out as that. So we're always making these assumptions. And it makes me wonder what kind of assumptions people will make of me, 200 years after my death, but I won't be important enough to care about. But it does make me wonder about the assumptions we make of people years after their death.
Okay, I heard this great quote the other day about because George Bernard Shaw, I guess, apparently was asked, oh, well, what will you think if people say things about you after you're dead? Like they dig up all kinds of things to say things about you after you're dead. And he thought about it for a moment and he said, well, I can tell you this. If someone were to come into a room and hold a gun to my head, I would be terrified and outraged and I would struggle for my life and hope that they wouldn't kill me. But say I'm 2 years dead and moldering in the ground, and somebody comes and they dig me up and they stick a gun to my head, I would think, oh, that's a bit distasteful. but it wouldn't be the same thing at all. So I think that was his way of saying, once a person's dead, they can't be harmed. It's just certainly, like family members and things like that or whatever. But I thought that was quite funny, actually, that he had said, especially as like, is biography actually an ethical thing to do when you go and, try and piece together things about people after they've died. It was quite fascinating. But yeah, yeah. But anyway, for Thomas de Quincey, author of Confessions of an English Opium Eater, it's a really cool book because it is all divided up into 3 sections. And it was, of course, when it hit the stands, shall we say, it became it was it just thought, oh my God, because they used to publish things in parts at that point. So when the first part was like, here is the amazing, wonderful thing about opium and that whole experience, it was like, well, how can you just say this? And then the next part, of course, was, and here's the terrible things that happened because of it. So it was thought to start a genre of what is now called addiction literature. Like he was kind of the first one to come out, and really, really interesting book. Anyway, not exactly Wordsworthian, but he did live in Dove Cottage after they moved out, and they got mad at him because he changed the garden. It's now back to the way they had it, but he did change the garden up a little bit. Thomas. Anyway. Okay.
Well, we're getting just a little short on time, so I think we won't play the last poem, but why don't you just summarize sort of the end of life here?
Okay.
Maybe we'll end with a joyous song.
We'll end with a joyous song. So in 1843, age 73, Wordsworth became Poet Laureate of Britain. He didn't want to. He turned it down a couple of times because he was also sort of sad after the death of his beloved daughter Dora, who was very, very attached to her as well too, and she lived well into her 40s, but then of course contracted TB, as a lot of people did, and she died. So he was just like, I don't want it. I'm too old, and no, please come on, do it. So he did. So ironically, the young revolutionary became the nation's official poet. Reluctantly accepted, thought he was too old. He even promised not to write many official poems. He died in 1850 at the age of 80. Dorothy, his sister, died 5 years later, and they are buried next to each other, and his wife, and the whole family's together. Only after his death was the Prelude, that great big poem, finally published. Today, millions of school children still memorize his poetry, whether willingly or not. Visitors continue to walk the same paths around Grasmere. It's open, and you can go there for £16, 15 if you're over 65. Many still pause beside the lakes, watch the clouds, listen to the birds, and think of Wordsworth.
Do you know what they do? What I was reading about when I was trying to find audio versions of these poems, I first hit on the Wordsworth Museum, where descendants of Wordsworth get together and they read his poems.
Oh.
And I thought, that's really cool. So they, his great grandson, who's like now a little old man kind of thing, or, whatever, reads his poems. So they gather as a family and read the poems, but it's live. So, or recorded for a short period of time. So there's no access to it anymore, but apparently it happens annually.
That's wonderful. And there's a whole branch of the family in France as well, too, of course.
Yeah.
From his first daughter.
Of course. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So,
and they do also, probably reading his stuff in beautiful French. I do apologize to anybody who's a French speaker. I just about slipped into my terrible French accent there.
There you go.
That is very cool, Amy. That's lovely.
Yeah, I thought that was really nice.
What a nice legacy.
Well, I was looking for poems that were audible so that we didn't have to read them all out loud ourselves. And that we had some variety of voice in the space.
Yeah.
I found a musician that took one of his poems and made a song out of it. So we've heard this poem already, so I would love for us just to listen to the the actual music, like the musical accompaniment. It's not just to the backing of, you know, a soundtrack. But Rick, why don't you hit play on this and we'll just have a little listen.
I heard 1,000 blended notes while in a grove I sate reclined, in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts and that green bower the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man?
Love it. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If anybody was wondering, that was the lines written in early spring, which we talked about in pretty good depth, Eileen, you and I. So this has been fun.
It really works as a ballad, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. If you're a musician, you can take these kinds of one of my favorite songs actually is The Lady of Shalott, which is a poem. It's a very long poem, but Lorena McKennitt sings it in a Celtic kind of song way, and so I like this vibe of poetry to music, but as lyrics, not necessarily just as with a musical backing, but because they're singing the lyrics with intention. And that's a different thing. So
yeah, which is a long, the long tradition of bardic poetry as well too. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Very cool stuff.
Christina Rossetti, who was a poet who wrote in the Deep Midwinter. It's a beautiful Christmas song that gets played every year, but it started out life as a poem. And I don't think I think without you can't have it without the music now. It's just missing an element. Did
not know that. I would love for anybody in our Zoom room, if they want to share thoughts or questions, or Eileen's a bit of a literary nerd in the best way. No, like you just like stuff sticks in your brain. You remember things. So if you have thoughts or things that you want to ask, maybe Eileen knows, maybe she doesn't, but
probably don't. But
she also is an actor, so she can make stuff up and make you believe that.
That's more likely.
So we won't go for too long because I want to respect everybody's time, but we've got a hand from Ben, so come on in, Ben.
Okay, Eileen. How are
Hi. What did I get wrong?
you? Did not get anything wrong. As I say this kind of in a fast, funny way. First of all, I want to say that was a really good presentation. My question is, other than where we can find these on the VocalEye website, do you have a website that has these clips in audio form with you describing them?
Oh, Amy, that's an Amy question.
No, that was an Eileen question.
Well, it's Amy's research. Honestly, it's Amy's research with my expostulations thrown in. So her notes, and then I just built on them, and then Amy pulled all the clips. So she actually has them, the clips.
Yeah, so only on the VocalEye website then will you, our YouTube channel, not website, YouTube channel.
Now, the other side question was, how long have you been with VocalEye?
Who, me? Eileen?
Yeah.
Oh, what is it, Amy? It's 15 years now. I think I started
15 years.
describing about 15 years ago. So I'm one of the old ones. The oldest.
Eileen is the OG. You're one of our original most seasoned describer, Eileen.
Senior describer. Yeah.
I said seasoned. Seasoned.
You did a very awesome. I was gonna say you did a very awesome job.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you very
anyway,
much.
I have
to hear her live.
And now it's time for me to go rescue I have to go rescue a piece of paper that I need to find.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
I thought you were going to say a puppy.
Yeah, we hear rescue.
It could be a puppy, but it's a puppy that would be online.
Okay, got it.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, bye, Ben.
Rita has a hand. Come on in, Rita.
Okay, you were saying about, did we appreciate this kind of presentation? This was wonderful. It's unusual, but it's different. It brings, a different kind of art, like poetry, and like what you've done is you've done a lot of research, the connection between a bunch of poets and Wordsworth and Dorothy as well, and his friends, and it's just seeing all the relationships there. It was really fascinating. So it was really good. It was a very good research and stuff that I hadn't ever heard about. I mean, I'd heard things about his relationship with his sister, but I hadn't heard about and any of the other stuff. So anyway, so this was really a very great presentation. And the other thing is, like, some of the poems, I've heard them before, but hearing them in the context of what was happening in his life, that's also a little bit different. So that really was more meaningful. So
thanks, Rita. That's
Rita.
Really helpful. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You were quite a community, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, really quite amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it totally makes me think about like, when Rita, when you talk about relationships between artists, it's like, when we think about, I don't know, even art in architecture, where you're thinking about the seven wonders of the world. Mm-hmm. And how, like, what are those? What are their connections to each other? What are they historically? What do they look like? Why are they the seven wonders of the world? Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things I think are interesting. I don't know, what did they call the seven painters, the Canadian
the group of seven.
The group of seven, that's what I was looking for. The group of seven.
Oh, so yeah, yeah.
how are they connected and how are they related to each other? And like, some of us had that knowledge in school, some of us didn't. Some of it, is like, yeah, I remember bits and pieces, but, I can't contextually relate them to each other. And, so, and that would be 7 paintings, like it's a nice little almost live kind of contextual thing that could be done with description and history and all that kind of stuff. So there's no kind of end to where to the kind of content we could share here. So anyways, that doesn't mean I'm giving up on any other content, because I love it when other artists bring their stuff to the space, but sometimes it's harder to find artists to bring their stuff to the space. So there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Once again, the dead ones can't complain, right?
That's
Right.
true. That is very true. Very true. Eileen, thanks so much. I know that you're also a big lover and knowledge keeper of the Bronte. I'm gonna call it the franchise, because this is it feels like a franchise.
The Brontes and Jane Austen, and all the go women. Yeah, that's
yeah. We might have to get you to come back and share some of that. Oh, I see a hand now from Megan. So let's give Megan kind of the last word here. Come on in, Megan.
That was amazing. The song Surprised by Joy is in my hymn book too.
Oh.
In my Unitarian Universalist hymn book.
That's right. Yeah, Megan. Thank you. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you knew as well?
I had a friend take me to the Unitarian Universalist Church, and there it was, and we sang it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And wasn't he the one that wrote Alone to Cut Them By the Grain? Was it Henry Wordsworth Longfellow? I don't know.
That was Longfellow, but same sort of time frame. So you're not far off. Yeah.
So where did they go on their honeymoon?
Oh, they went around the Lake District. So they didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't really, but they all went together.
Hope they didn't share a room.
To northern part, like, is it near like
the Lake District it's a beautiful part of England. That's right. Like if you go sort of north of Cambridge and a little bit over to the west, it's there. It's there.
It's not near like Easing Wolds, like Yorkshire area, right?
Kind of a bit, yes, ish. A little bit south of Yorkshire, a little bit to the west. Yeah, kind of. It's kind of close to the. I don't want to say the center of England, because that's the Midlands, but yeah.
There's also another poem written by William Wordsworth, who's also the hymn book as well, but it didn't have a name; it had a line, so I don't know what it was called, but it was in the hymn book as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of wild.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you can see why. I mean, it works. His stuff works beautifully for Unitarian services, right? Because there's so much of an appreciation of nature and in the world, and empathy.
I think it was surprised by joy, or like that. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe we should have got you to sing it. There you go.
Oh, but I packed all my stuff for when I move in September. I'll be moving in still in Kelowna, but up near Lake Country area. Near the airport on Upper Booth Road North.
Another reference to Lake Country.
Exactly.
I love it.
Of course.
I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, get the one
Thanks.
on Lake Country.
Thanks, Megan, for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome.
I love it.
Well, I want to go there too. I want to go there too. I want to go to what I want to go where I'll go with my new caregiver. That's how I'll go. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Eileen, for doing this. I really appreciate you jumping on in and sharing your wisdom and your thoughts and all of it. It's just really lovely to have you in the space. So.
Oh, and I thank you, Amy. Thank you for all the enormous amount of work that you did tonight and always.
I enjoy it because I love spending time here in this space with guests and community, and yeah, it's after 224 episodes, I don't know what else I would do on a Wednesday night.
Wow.
So this is my life, and I love every moment of it. So yeah. So thanks for joining us in the space, and we'll say goodnight until the next time we have Eileen in the space with us.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.